welcome back to another episode of the Crowley Connect. As many of you know, Milwaukee County is rich with arts and theater assets and organizations. And not only do these organizations contribute to the cultural enrichment of our entire community, but the work that they perform can foster very important conversations around issues and challenges that face our society. Now, one of those organizations is the Bronzeville Arts Ensemble. So joining me for this month's Crowley Connect is Sherry Williams-Pennell, co-founder and managing artistic director, and Lakita Caldwell, the resident playwright of the Bronzeville Arts Ensemble. Thank you all for joining me this afternoon. How are you all doing?
I'm doing great.
Yes.
Thank you so much for having us here today.
Yes.
This
So
is
pleased to be here. Yes.
Absolutely. Now let's get right to it. I want to really talk about your organization itself. Now, Sherry, you co-founded the Bronzeville Arts Ensemble in 2013, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
Now, where did this idea for the theater company come from?
Well, I have to say I'm one of 7 founders of the theater company. And Malkia Stampley, along with her husband, Chike Johnson, had this kernel of an idea. And they brought together the rest of the founders to talk about the fact that while we have wonderful theater in Milwaukee, and some of the theater companies produce works by African Americans, we needed to have our own voice, our own theater company. And so we came together and in fall of 2013 founded Bronzeville Arts Ensemble. And the whole idea is that we are telling the stories of African Americans through our own voice as not only the actors, but the directors, the producers, all of the people who work behind the scenes in production. We try to create work for the artistic community in Milwaukee who are of African descent and others as well. But the idea is to capture those stories, the untold stories, and cultivate the playwriting as well. We want to tell those stories that mean the most to our community. And that comes to us from conversations from living in the community and listening to people's areas of interest.
Well, I truly appreciate that. We have to have more spaces for our creators just in general. Now, I understand that you also have a history with both King Park and the community center. And if I'm not mistaken, the Bronzeville Arts Ensemble has a presence at the King Community Center. Can you tell us a little bit about that history, as well as any collaboration that you all are embarking on?
Absolutely. I have to tell you, I worked at the Martin Luther King Community Center. Oh boy, I'm really going to date myself, but I'm just going to go ahead and put it on out there. 1982.
Well, thank you for your service.
And I'll tell you, I was there as a part of New Concept Self-Development Center. It was housed in the King Community Center. This is the honest truth. My training is in human sexuality education. I was a sex educator working for New Concept. My office was in the King Center. And one of the joys of being in the King Center was being able to go to the library right there in the King Center and get all the books by Nikki Giovanni and Maya Angelou and all before everybody else could get their hands on them. In addition, I sang with the Heritage Chorale with Ella Washington, and we rehearsed and performed at the King Center for years. This is over a decade of performing and rehearsing right there at the King Center. And so when the opportunity came for Bronzeville Arts Ensemble, which is a not-for-profit theater group that is professional, had the opportunity to bring the arts, theater arts, to the King Center, I said, yes, by all means. Oh, yes, we would love, first of all, to have an office there so that we have a place to put roots in the community, on a bus line, walking distance from people's homes, and in a park that I love. So here we are able to offer arts all year round because we also have the amphitheater in the back, which I don't think gets a lot of use. It will now. So we are so proud because Bronzeville represents Milwaukee. The arts represent Milwaukee, Bronzeville Arts Ensemble, and in the historic King Community Center.
Absolutely. Well, we want to make sure that we're always activating our spaces, not only make them safe, but make them inviting, and truly appreciate the partnership. Now, you talked about some of the things that you're doing, but I know in addition to the creating the performing arts productions and illuminating the Black experience overall in America, you also offer some educational opportunities for the community. Can you tell our listeners more about the education arm of the organization and the community collaborations?
Absolutely. First of all, I'd like to say that there are organizations that already reach out to young people. What we wanted to do was to cultivate the talent and the gifts that exist within the adults in our community. So the first thing Bronzeville did was to offer acting and drama classes for adults, playwriting courses for adults, which resulted in a playwriting festival, a reading of new works by community members who created these plays with the encouragement of the Bronzeville Arts Ensemble members. And in fact, two of them have had, I'll say, a life of their own. One was produced a full production, which means it had lights, camera, action, you might as well say, in our community. And one has traveled. That is that one. The first one was called "Just a Conversation Over Chicken and Dumplings." Don't you love that title? By Michelle Dobbs. By Michelle Dobbs, another Milwaukee community member, and then Don Pennell produced "Posthumous Fame," which has had, I'm going to say, at least 4 performances. It's traveled to different places throughout Milwaukee County. So that's the potential that exists within our community. Once people know I have a place where I can come and cultivate this art. But we are so pleased now to have with us Lakita Caldwell as our resident playwright, because her plays, much like the others, include workshops, include talkback, pre-show talkback, and all sorts of experiences that take the play and make it live within the people who experience the performance. Lakita, talk a little bit about what's coming.
Yes.
So I'm really excited to have my play Chloe's Beautiful Blues produced at the King Center. And it's a piece that deals with a young lady, one of my students who was being bullied in her school. And so how she dealt with being bullied and some of the trauma she's dealing with at home was to fight. She ended up not being able to stay in the school, but it started off as a children's book. And the children's book, Chloe's Beautiful Blues, is an affirmation. This young lady was first generation American. Her family came over from Sudan. So I did a lot of research around Sudan, but I wrote the book just to remind her that she's beautifully and wonderfully made. And so everyone who reads this book is an affirmation. But then Sherry reached out to me and was like, can you put it into a children's play? And I was like, absolutely. I love the challenge. And so what you're going to see in this play is you're going to see a young lady who has 2 educators, an educator who turns a blind eye to bullying, but then you have an educator who hears her singing, just like the young people that we work with. She sees Mr. Clark sees her potential, and through the blues, she finds a way to release the traumas that are going on inside of her. So Chloe's Beautiful Blues. And so she's introduced to a new art form because she could already sing and she was already a poet. He teaches her how to play, he teaches her how to sing. And the play starts at his retirement party when she came back. And she ended up going to Juilliard from college. So it's also to plant the seeds of the possibilities of where our kids can go. You're not just an educator, but you're someone who's planting that seed that's opening the door to purpose within our young people. So that's one of the themes from this play. I love to write pieces. I sat at my grandmother's feet. I had an older grandmother who died when she was 96, but I always was fascinated by stories, how people overcame, how she talked about walking to school and wringing chickens' necks. And I was like, what? And plucking the feathers. But it was fascinating to me how they were able to overcome some of this play really deals with colorism. The young lady was called a monkey. How do you overcome being called someone? How do you find your beauty in the midst of your blue? So I'm fascinated how people go from being victims to survivors and that overcoming and through their story. And so that's why I love to sit down and I I worked with was the Healing Play. I interviewed over 100 women who had been sexually assaulted, and it became a play that traveled throughout the state of Wisconsin called Unclothed. But just to hear the resilience, the perseverance of these women who had something happen to their body was just remarkable. I was actually personally going through something, and their stories of overcoming helped me to find my own healing. So there's power in healing and resilience within our stories, and that's the nerd part of me. I get excited about capturing capturing those stories and equipping our babies. They're all my babies, but equipping our babies to take their voice, to shape it where they hold us accountable as adults to keeping them safe. And that's really what this project, Chloe's Beautiful Blues, for me. It's a book, it's a play that's coming out during Black History Month, and it's an animation short that's going to be released during Women's History Month. So there's so many different layers to this project. And it was a letter writing campaign. So we had women who wrote Dear Chloe letters. And at first, they were students who wrote them, but then I started to get a lot of adults who worked in corporate organizations that started to share the microaggressions that they were facing. So Chloe represents that older woman like me whose little girl never healed from being bullied. So this play is not just for young people, but it is for that adult who needs the healing, but it's also for that young person to know that we have your back. Your voice matters, and we will make sure you're in a safe environment.
And well, speaking of environment, the play is going to take place at the King Center in this 200-seat theater. In addition to the play, there will be workshops, and we are inviting the schools that are around the King Center, the elementary school, the middle school, the high schools that are within walking distance or a bus ride away from the King Center at no cost. These school children and their teachers will be able to attend performances of Chloe's Beautiful Blues at the King Center and have someone come into their school to do workshops with them.
Absolutely. Now I can hear the passion, I can hear the talent and utilizing it and how you get to people. So the question that we have to make sure that we answer for all the folks is, if somebody's interested in attending one of your upcoming productions, how do they do that?
Visit Black Arts MKE. That's the other thing. Bronzeville Arts Ensemble is under the umbrella of Black Arts MKE. Their website, and then look for Bronzeville Arts Ensemble. And we are on the Facebook page, Bronzeville Arts Ensemble's Facebook page, and Raising the Bar on that Facebook page as well, and on their website. And there will be one public show that tickets will be sold, but everything else, the school shows, are at no cost to the audience members.
And I really quick shout out our sponsors. Our sponsors, that's how we're able to offer the school shows for free. So very grateful for our community sponsors that allowed the students to be able to go to this production for free.
Awesome. Say their names, Keats.
Greater Milwaukee Foundation, the Bader Foundation, and the Brewer Foundation. They are the ones who were donated so students could go to the productions for free.
That's awesome. Now, you're talking about this production, but I want to touch base on another one that you did earlier this month, if I'm not mistaken. You presented a performance of Enough, which is Plays to End Gun Violence. Can you tell us a little bit about this play and the impact that this work has on the entire Milwaukee community?
Yes, well, I have to say, first of all, that #Enough is not just a local movement, it is a national movement. So we were able to connect with 50 theater companies throughout the country. We all did the same play the same night at the same time at 7:30 Eastern Standard Time, 6:30 Central Standard Time, and 4:30 out in the West Coast, saying the same words. The idea was that young people who are teenagers who are experiencing gun violence, impacted by gun violence, wrote 10-minute plays about their experiences. They submitted them and they were chosen. These 6 plays were put into an evening of non-violence gun violence, anti-gun violence plays. I get so emotional sometimes I can't even get it out.
Understood.
So the idea was to offer them to the community, to make people aware of how young people are impacted, and to come together as families to hear these stories. Some of them were tough to hear. In fact, we had to have a disclaimer. There's going to be some tough language. There may be, some words, some moments that trigger us, but we are all impacted. The hashtag Enough movement was started by Michael Cody, a graduate where I am right now, Peck School of the Arts, UWM. He took this idea to the Kennedy Center, and they said, let's do it. And Kennedy Center was the one that got it rolling. Hashtag Enough is now 5 years in existence, and we're already planning for next year for hashtag Enough. Theater companies all across the nation are invited and encouraged to participate. There is no budget for it. It's all about giving and bringing people together who are talented, who talk about a tough topic. Anti-gun violence. We at the King Center we have a little over 30 members of the community that came to hear these stories. We had 5 actors who volunteered their services, their talent, and drums up, guns down, provided the soundscape for our play in the readings. And one really touching moment, a 7-year-old, I was like, he's awfully young, but he stayed with his family. He heard everything. And at the end, he raised his hand when we said, have you been personally affected by gun violence? Yes. I said, how have you been affected? He says, it was so sweet. He says, we have active shooter drills in my school.
Wow.
So he heard, he got it. And the idea is then what are we going to do about it now?
Right.
Taking it to the next level. And it's up to each of us who have heard to take it. We also at Bronzeville Arts Ensemble 2 years ago, working with Mothers Against Gun Violence, took the accounts that were recorded on their website. What I did was, as a playwright, listened, gleaned, got it down. There are over 30 testimonials, choosing 7 testimonials, taking those testimonials, including one of our mayor, getting it down to 7 to 10 minute monologue. And it was Voices of Gun Violence, Milwaukee Voices of Gun Violence, resilient, revolutionary. And from that movement, we have now been invited to a national conference in North Carolina in April, taking the stories from Milwaukee that are unfortunately, I have to say unfortunately, universal stories. And from this has grown a theater movement where we will, much like hashtag Enough, collect the stories from different communities until we don't have to do it anymore.
I hear you on that. And I appreciate it. Now, before we close out, I have to ask you both, Sherry and Lakita. I always pose this question to all my guests, and that is, can you tell me your favorite thing about our community in Milwaukee County?
Oh my goodness.
I love our community in the summer. I love the festivals. I love going to Garfield Days. I love going to just so many things, the live music and the performances during the summer. So, and then I have to shout out the lakefront. I love the lakefront. In the summer, I bike down there. I'm on the Parks Foundation. I'm on the board for them with Rebecca. I love the parks. The parks are parks and lake and live music in the summer is my sweet spot for me in Milwaukee.
All right.
Milwaukee is my home. I was born and raised in Milwaukee. I grew up in what would be considered the Harambe neighborhood. I love the history that is here. And being able to find these stories and being able now to put them on paper and share them. I was involved in a project with the Metcalf neighborhood, where the story of Ralph Metcalf and turned it around and was able to have a reading of that play. So I love the idea of finding new stories to tell and then getting them on the stage and making people understand just how beautiful this city, this county
Yes.
how wonderful Milwaukee really is.
Absolutely. People and parks. Those two of
That's
my
it.
favorite things as well.
Yes. Yes.
Love the parks. I think the parks
Absolutely.
remind me of home. So I grew up on a farm in the country. So I love green trees and the animals running around. So yeah, I love the parks.
Mhm.
Well, I have to first and foremost say thank you. Thank you to you both for your leadership, as well as for your vision as you look to continue to inspire through healing, through positive social change all throughout our community. I truly appreciate and want to say thank you. And to our listeners, please don't forget to subscribe, hit that like button, and follow the Crowley Connect on YouTube, Twitter, and Instagram. And until the next time, I wish you and yours the best. And thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Crowley Connect.